So what do these Liberals do? They introduce the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. Today we got a clip here from Michael Cooper absolutely ripping the Liberals about a legal loophole that they've been taking advantage of and keeping in our government to pad their own pockets and to help them with election funding as well as with the election coming up and pensions. So let's jump into this. The first thing I'll note here is I'll be playing this on 1.5% speed. If you hold shift and bracket right or bracket left, you can increase the speed or decrease the speed on YouTube. And Michael Cooper speaks really slow that he actually sounds like he's speaking normal with 1.5 speed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak to Bill C-65, an act to amend the Canada Elections Act. I listened attentively to the Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader in his speech, and he characterized the bill as good stuff and suggested that at the end of the day, Conservatives would support the bill. I can assure him that what is in the bill isn't good stuff, and Conservatives will not be supporting Bill C-65. There are problems with this bill, putting aside the pension issue, which I will get into later. There are amendments that we cannot support. For example, one of the amendments provided for in the bill is with respect to special ballot voting, whereby a voter would be able to mark their ballot by filling in their preferred political party as opposed to their preferred candidate. This raises constitutional questions. Under our Constitution, there are multiple references to individuals being elected to the House of Commons. In contrast, there is not a single reference to political parties in our Constitution. And that is because in Canada, we elect individuals to the House of Commons. We do not elect political parties. This amendment completely upends that. And I would submit that it is arguable that the amendment is unconstitutional, but at the very best, it is problematic. For instance, if it were to be adopted, what is to say that another amendment could be made to the Canada Elections Act whereby the names of individual candidates are removed altogether and that Canadians would simply mark their ballot by filling in their preferred political party. Another problematic amendment to Canada Elections Act provided for in the bill relates to assisting voters marking in their ballot. As it stands today, a voter who requires assistance may receive assistance from an individual who may help them mark in their ballot. Now, such an individual may only help one voter in an election, and there must be some personal connection between the voter and the individual assisting them. This legislation removes both of those criteria. Under this bill, an individual would be able to help an unlimited number of voters mark in their ballot, notwithstanding any connection of any sort between the person assisting and the elector. And I would submit that this, on its face, raises questions of potential abuse, and therefore I would suggest this amendment be carefully scrutinized at committee.
We have to really watch out what Trudeau's doing here. Messing with our elections. He wants to drop the voting age to 16. Anything he's just touching that has to do with the elections, he wants to try to rig it. So we got to be careful.
With respect to the third-party financing regime, this bill is a step in the right direction, but is inadequate. It is a step in the right direction insofar as it makes an important step forward with respect to financing during the pre-election and election periods. It appears that the objective with respect to changes to third-party financing is that third parties, in terms of the expenditures that they make during those periods, are raised from funds donated by individual Canadian contributors in the same way as political parties must raise donations from individual Canadians. The problem is that it doesn't entirely close a long-standing loophole whereby third parties can use contributions made from foreign funds, to influence elections. And I have to ask why it is that these...
Yeah, it's probably because Trudeau gets his money from China. That's why. We all know why. I mean, look at the foreign interference. Look at the top two countries of immigration. It's China and India. I wonder where the money's coming from. Maybe it's China or India.
Liberals haven't seen fit to close that loophole. We know that during the 2015 election, millions and millions of dollars were funneled from U.S.-based organizations, including the U.S. Tides Foundation, to registered third parties who ran a coordinated campaign to defeat Conservatives to the benefit of the Liberal Party. And after 9 years, this Prime Minister we have seen a prime minister and a government that have a deeply troubling record of turning a blind eye to foreign interference and even being complicit with foreign interference, whether that foreign interference emanates from Beijing or from the US, so long as it benefits the Liberal Party. And I have to say, I can't help but wonder that the reason that the Liberals have not fully closed this foreign money loophole with respect to third-party financing is because they see it as a loophole that benefits them electorally. And, Madam Speaker, I could go on talking about other aspects of this bill and problems with this bill, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because this bill is not an elections bill. That's not what this bill is about. It's a pension bill. It's the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act. That's what this bill is, under the guise of an elections bill. And, by the way, this government isn't fooling anyone. To put it in some context, Madam Speaker, we have a deeply, deeply unpopular prime minister in government that is on the verge of facing a massive electoral defeat whenever they have the guts to call the next election. And what that means, of course, is that many of these Liberals sitting across the way aren't going to be here after the next election. Now, they have to call an election by October 20th, 2025. But the problem that they have is that the Liberals who were elected in 2019, many of whom face almost certain defeat, don't qualify for their pension. So what do these Liberals do? They introduce the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act so that they push back the election date so that all of a sudden these soon-to-be loser Liberals will pad their pockets with a pension.
That's absurd. I think so. Most of them are on the 22nd, their pension comes in, or 21st, 22nd. It's a couple days afterwards. So they're trying to push it back a week. And then they're just trying to say, oh, well, it's for Ramadan. Yeah, it's a religious holiday. Yeah, that's why we have to push it back. But really, you could push it forward. You could call the election right now, Trudeau. This is not going to sit well. It's not going to sit well with anyone. If they do this, we, the Canadian citizens, will demand to have those pensions ripped up and have their bank accounts seized. How do they like that? This is just more theft of Canadian dollars is what this is.
It is about as cynical and about as dishonest as it gets from arguably one of the most cynical and dishonest governments that has ever governed this country. And it is an absolute abuse of the legislative power of this government. And you know what? It constitutes this government, yet again, giving everyday Canadians, as they do every day, the middle finger, as they pad their pockets while they, after 9 years, have pummeled everyday Canadians and made life less affordable and have caused enormous hurt and pain for Canadians. So, no, contrary to the representation of the member for Winnipeg North, Conservatives will not be supporting the Loser Liberal Pension Protection Act. And
yeah, I mean, it's just like their last middle finger to the Canadian public leaving office. That's what this is.
With that, I will be moving, seconded by the member for Calgary-Shepherd, the following: that the motion be amended by deleting all the words after the word that and substituting the following. The House declined to give second reading to Bill C-65, an act to amend the Canada Elections Act, as the bill delays the next election so that more departing members of Parliament can collect taxpayer-funded pensions, a measure that is particularly offensive at a time when Canadians are struggling due to the NDP Liberal government's inflation, carbon tax, and housing costs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, well said, Michael Cooper.
The amendment is in order.
Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Well, Madam Speaker, as I said, who am I to defend the 32 Conservatives? 32 Conservative MPs are the biggest benefactor, and yet he's calling us, the Liberals, for defending the Conservatives? There's 22.
That makes no sense. The Conservatives are going to win, so they'll get their extra 2 days in the House to get their pensions. So it doesn't matter. That's not a good argument. The team that's going to win by 99% is going to be the one who benefits. They're going to win. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. And all the Conservatives know that.
2 Liberals and 19.
Order. I think that we all want to hear the response, and if not, then I would ask members to still not disrupt the proceedings. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Liberals, 32 Conservatives, 22 Liberals, 19 Bloc, a half dozen New Democrats. That's the individuals that are affected.
That's a lot of people getting, because most of those are going to get wiped out. The Bloc will probably maintain most of theirs. The NDP and the Liberals was at 19 or like a dozen or so plus 22 is like 35. 35 pensions that we're paying. Each pension is like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. That's outrageous, man.
Aside, my question to the member is, I don't understand the Conservatives as to the last time they brought in legislation. Remember, you tried to get rid of the voter ID card as a way to identify yourself? It's voter suppression, robocalls. Remember, Dean Del Mastro let out in handcuffs? Madam Speaker, what is it that the Conservative Party doesn't understand the importance of democracy in Canada?
That is one of the most appalling things I've heard in a while. This guy he's got to go. Just absolute loser.
The honourable member St. Albert Edmonton.
Madam Speaker, I would invite the member to talk to the member for Steveston, Richmond East, and then compare that to the testimony of our former colleague, Kenny Chu, who provided evidence of the Liberal Party amplifying disinformation for the partisan gain of the Liberal Party. So that speaks to the integrity of these Liberals, and if they had any integrity, and if it really wasn't about protecting their pensions, they would support my amendment and remove the loser Liberal Pension Protection Act from the bill.
Hear, hear.
Michael Cooper's an absolute savage loser Liberal Protection Act. I mean, you have to just laugh at this. It's so angering just thinking about that. They want to rig the system and change the laws just so they can get a handful, 22 of their people over the line here to get golden pensions when they don't deserve it. None of them deserve pensions. We should be ripping and stripping the pensions off of all of the Liberals for the suffering they've caused, not giving out more golden pensions. Jeez, man. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this, because it's just more outrageous garbage from the Liberals. So be sure to subscribe here to my second channel. We'll keep fighting for freedom. I'll see you guys in the next one.